Just the stats, Reggie Johnson, Eugene Morgan coming to you from the lovely city of Atlanta, Georgia. I'm very happy to be here, Eugene. We got summer basketball happening. We have Olympic basketball happening. We have there's one thing I am missing here that Hard Knocks on we will talk about that a little bit further in the show. So we got some NFL stuff coming up in here, NFL news here with Brandon Ayuk. We're going to start here with Bronny James with a question that I already know what you're going to say the answer is.
Yep.
But I think it's becoming more and more apparent. So is Bronny James an NBA player? No.
No, I mean, right now.
That's a simple answer, right?
Simple answer is no. I mean, it's like he's a second rounder. He's last pick. I mean, historically, if you look at all the second rounders, it's been a lot of misses. So I just don't know what scale we're judging this guy on. You know, that's the thing.
What scale do you feel is appropriate?
I mean, was it a nepotism pick? Obviously, but
of course.
I mean, I have to say, I mean, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for nepotism, right? My dad got me into a business because he was in the business. So
you feel like there's nothing to see here, nothing much. I mean, I get it too. We had a few presidents that had their kids working in the government, and they clearly didn't go through the regular
NBA front offices, MLB
front offices, correct?
Every front office
like that. That you just bring your kid to work all the time. They're getting make all these connections and stuff, and getting that kind of leg up. And I feel like that anybody would do that for their child. I don't really knock LeBron, nor do I knock Bronny for this. So I want to talk about both the good and the bad. So when it comes to the good I like is the head on this kid's shoulders. I've heard him talk. He's saying all the right stuff. He's saying, hey, listen, I'll go down to the G League. I'll play. He's not saying I deserve to be sitting on a bench next to my father. He's not saying stuff like that. He's out here saying that he should earn it. And for the LeBron's sake too, he hasn't said his kid deserves to be out there. If LeBron is anything like I am as a father, we don't want our kids to get any special attention. We don't want our kids getting any legs up. Go out there and earn it. And then we put you in the best position to help you with whatever job, career path, whatever it is you want to achieve. I think the parents, you kind of help to guide the kid there. But once the kid gets there, I'm not going to be doing the job with you. You're going to have to go do the job. And you're going to have to be competent at whatever job or whatever endeavor. So I think that I don't even know that LeBron even thinks that he should be on the bench. He hasn't said anything like that, right? Have you heard anything like that?
I haven't heard anything like that. I mean, obviously, come on. We know he made the call, and it's the last pick. I just feel like most of these guys in the second round, like you said, either end up in G League, either end up overseas, and the stories we hear are always the ones where like, oh, this guy worked his way back from ... G League ... overseas, and he's on an NBA roster. I mean, you just don't see too many of those guys coming back being stars, being all-stars, but do they come back and contribute? Absolutely. And I think, and again, we got to remember this guy did have a cardiac arrest while he was, he's still trying to get himself back in some kind of basketball form. So I don't know. It's once we get to second round in NBA, we just all know it's not like a second round in NFL, right? We just know where the talent level drops, and it usually is second round. And most of these guys, that's where you're
hoping to get a guy. I mean, you're hoping that a guy like a Jokic falls to you there. You're right. You're hoping, you're praying that you can get a guy that just falls to you.
Jalen Johnson for the Hawks, right? I mean, look at him, second rounder, and he was a projected lottery, but he fell to second round because of injuries. But again, you get lucky sometimes.
So let's go over Bronny's stats. So Bronny's stats before he came into the league were he had played 25 games. Let me see. I have it here too. They're not great. 25 games, 4.8 points per game, 2.8 rebounds. Let's go ahead and round that up to 3 for him. So let's do 5 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 37% field goal percentage, 27% 3-point, 68% on the free throw. And 25 games played, and you were drafted. That's rough.
Yeah,
that's rough. Because I think it puts such a target. Because everybody knows, even if you're the guys going up against a Bronny, you at least know the cameras are going to be there, right? You like even if I don't respect the kid's game, and I feel like my game is so much better than the kid's game is, I got to bring it to you, kid, because the camera's going to be there. I got to show everybody that I deserve to be on a team. You already got a contract for the next few years here, whether you get called up or not. Whatever happens. But teams are going to be coming for you, right? Guys are going to be trying to make a point.
Right.
Let's look at this here. All right, so 43 points per game. Let's go over Bronny James' summer league stats. So those were just his college stats. We just went over, kind of got him into the league. Through this season so far, he's averaging 4 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and abysmal 22.6 on the field goal percentage. The one Call of Duty title. No, I didn't put what is this fadeaway? I'm not sure which website I got this graphic from. But let's just say, ladies and gents, I did not put the Call of Duty title in there. I feel like that is a troll. I would never troll with video games. People know how I feel about video games. I love them. I would never troll. Let's go get that out of here. But 0 for 15 for 3-pointers, I think, is his biggest glaring issue. Only because people were trying to bank him as a 3-and-D guy. And you need the 3 to be a 3-and-D guy. You got to make some 3-point shots. So I feel like that stat is going to hurt him a bit. I think if you are a person like Bronny and you're not necessarily doing anything extremely well, it helps to do a lot of things at least decently well. Maybe you can guard. Maybe you could be scrappy on defense. Maybe you could be a glue guy. But there's ways you can fit into the NBA without being an absolute superstar. So I think that was the niche that I think a lot of people felt that Bronny was going to fall into. It hasn't happened like that so far. What do you think he can do at this point to kind of change some of those minds? Or do you think this kind of like the proof's in the pudding? Jaylen Brown just got caught on a hot mic moment, so to speak. It wasn't really a hot mic moment. It's him talking to his girlfriend and Angel Reese at the game. But, he got caught telling the truth, and then he comes out with a tweet. He didn't necessarily walk back what he said. All he said was that he doesn't think he's an NBA player. But, I mean, maybe Bronny just doesn't work. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, if Summer League has taught us anything over the years, it's just don't trust the results in Summer League. I mean, we can even look at Trae Young's first Summer League games, and he looked abysmal as well. Again, I'm not trying to compare the talent level between these two guys. Right. It's night and day. But I just think if we're just looking at it, I mean, yes, he's a long shot. But I mean, we've seen this over and over and time and again. Again, it's second round is for you to take a flyer on a guy. It's not like you're not looking really deep. You're looking for something. And if you're the Lakers, you kind of got who you want in the first round, right? You got a guy in your first round pick.
The next I heard has had some pretty good, solid summer league games. I know he had a superstar, but he's had some summer solid games.
Right. So you got your guy, right? You got the guy. So second round is you could take a flyer on a guy. And again, yes, they took a flyer on LeBron James's son. And I'm just not worked up about it. Are we going to have
one way or the other? Like, you don't feel any kind of way about it whatsoever?
No, I mean, I just don't. I mean, are we going to have the Ken Griffey moment? Probably not.
Man, goodness gracious, right?
I mean, yeah, but
that's about as good as you get. Do you have a better group? Do you have a better than King Griffey and Griffey Jr.? Like, let's think about a son in all of sports. Is there a better son-father combination than the Griffeys?
I don't think so, because it's just when he got drafted, that was the first thing I thought of, was where the two of them were playing together, and his dad was playing left field, and he's under the ball, about to catch it, and his son just comes to steal this ball from him. Just one of the classic moments ever, like just as a baseball fan. But I just think if we can just have them play together again, it could be game 81 where it doesn't matter.
I'm hearing a lot of people say that. Some people are saying they feel like they need to see him with other people. I don't really buy into that a lot, because I feel like if for the just for the other guys, I just know this is what other guys are thinking. So we're just gonna keep it a buck. A lot of guys are thinking, I should have this kid spot. Let's just get it out there, right? If I'm a man, grown man, fighting for my job, even a young kid, but I've been doing this all my life, as has he. I'm not taking any of that away from him. Mm-hmm. You feel like I can go out here and earn this, right? And you feel like, this kid's taking opportunities. And I need to go out here and get this opportunity. So you have people secretly at least saying that if they're not saying it to the kid's face.
Yeah. And again, those guys still find a way. He may have taken a draft spot, but how many guys get picked up just via free agency after the draft? Or how many guys are going already summer league or going overseas? And I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like, I don't think he's like, okay, yeah, he took a roster spot, but just at the way end of the bench. And is he going to be will he be in the roster? Probably not. Will he be in the G League? So just this whole talk, like, oh, he took a roster spot, but a second round roster spot, just if you just look through the history of the NBA, it doesn't have to happen that often. And you just don't see a lot of second rounders either making an NBA roster. Now, do they cover a great career overseas? Do they G League, or maybe they come front office people or coaches or bench coaches? Yes, that always happens a lot to those guys, even first rounders. But I just this whole talk like, oh, he took a roster spot. Yeah, but it's just, if you look through the history, it's just not that big of a deal.
And he can still get better too. Let's not act like it's an impossibility that he can't get better. But I do think that if we're just keeping it a buck, he's just not there now.
No.
And I think that he, at least from everything that I've seen with the kid, looks ready to embrace the challenge of getting there. So then that kind of helps. Let's flip over here to some football, because it's been a while. It's been a while since we've had any real football news. I guess it's just a draft and stuff like that. But we do have some Brandon Aiyuk news that we want to kind of discuss here. And we need to think about where the 49ers are going to go here, because this is a very interesting story. Because initially going in to this offseason, you hear the rumbles of the Brandon Aiyuk situation, but I'm thinking personally, they still got the guy under contract. And then if they chose to franchise him thereafter, they still can do so, they can even do that. So he wasn't in the same situation as some of these guys that could just walk or really cause a problem, because you still have a year under contract. And in theory, if they wanted to franchise you, they could keep you for another 2 years.
Right.
But I get what you're saying, where you're at. If you're like, I think he's making like $14 million on a rookie deal right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's looking at these guys get paid, and he's saying, you know what, man, I should be in that 20 to 30 range. We'll look at some of these other contracts here soon to kind of get a feel for where he's trying to be. I'll get your thoughts, and then I'll kind of piggyback off those on what do you think the 49ers should do?
Well, I thought it's very odd that they drafted a receiver, right? It's like,
what time it is.
Yeah. So that was very odd, right? When they drafted a receiver, and then he's kind of been your insurance policy, right? Because you're going to have some injuries with Debo, and you're going to have some injuries with Kittle. And I mean,
knock on wood, part of the game right now, and especially part of that team.
Exactly. And I mean, knock on wood that you got how many games out of Christian McCaffrey? I mean, that's just an anomaly, right?
Correct.
So
he's relatively healthy out there.
Just been that steady guy. And I know they drafted a really talented receiver in the first round, but I was just kind of, when I heard all this start come up, I was like, why would you? Again, he's just so dependable. He's your guy. You could, I mean, I hate to say it, but you can it's like almost like a baseball, almost like Cal Ripken, right? Last couple of years, you can pencil the guy in. He's going to be there. So
he plays games.
Right. Because, just the way Debo and the way Kittle play, they're going to get injured because they play just all out, and you love that about this guy. You love him. You hate him if you have him in fantasy, because God knows they're going to be injured at some point on your fantasy roster.
Right. Speaking of which, I did have Aiyuk. Took me to the playoffs last year. I very much appreciate that.
And I had Kittle on mine, and I'm like, it's one of those ones you don't want to drop them because their production is going to be there at some point, but you don't want the production going to be there. I had Debo on another team, the same thing. So I'm interested. I know he's requesting trade. Don't mean they have to trade him, but I just don't. You've locked up so much of your talent. Why would you not lock up this talent? I'm just confused by that.
Well, let's look at this stat here, because he has a stat for this. Stat is of the 33 players with at least 75 receptions this season.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Aiyuk was one of the only ones with a success rate of 70% or better. Right? That's pretty nice.
That's nice.
It's a nice stat, because when you look at some good names on that list, CeeDee Lamb, right?
Yeah.
Now you look at the reception. Now, one of the things you do is you look at his overall receptions. When you are looking at his overall receptions, one of the things that kind of comes that you got to think about is the team that he plays on. And I do think that's going to be one of the gifts of the. So if you're done with that point, I will kind of go into that.
You go, man. You go.
So I'm going to go into why I feel both ways about. I feel both sides of this coin, because if you are Brandon Aiyuk and you're a successful receiver, you're doing everything that you're supposed to be doing. You're underpaid. You're underpaid. There's no problem that Brandon Aiyuk has. But if I'm the 49ers, for one, I'm a good team. You're not our number one guy. I have CMC back here still. I could throw it to Kittle. I could toss it to Debo. On a bad team, I think Brandon Aiyuk would be that $20 to $30 million receiver, because on a bad team, you see he has 75 receptions here. That's going to get to triple digits. That's going to get to about 100 on a bad team, because he wouldn't have no other person the ball could be going to. Or a team with less offensive weapons. He might be worth more money to them than he would be to a team that has a plethora of offensive weapons at its disposal. Like, they can do a lot of things, and the offense doesn't seem to run through Aiyuk. If you really had to look at that team, you can kind of say the offense runs through McCaffrey with Kyle Shanahan running the ball as much as he does, right?
Yep.
So that being said, I get where the team is coming from. Like, well, we're not going to pay you what some of these other receivers are making. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and look at that real quick. All right, so let's look at this. So JJ just got the 140 with the 110 guaranteed here. Where Brandon Aiyuk is now, if you're going on year average, he's got to scroll all the way down. He's all the way down here.
But he's still on the rookie contract, right? Is that what you said?
He is still on his rookie contract. He is, and he should be. Let's go here back. Let's look in here. Justin Jefferson. So let's just go down the list here of players that from his point of view, because I already said from the 49ers point of view why they would be like, all right, we're not going to pay you 20, 30 million. We got other guys here. We don't run things through you. And so that's why you can say a Justin Jefferson, who is definitely going to get the lion's share of the balls there. It'd be worth that. I do still grimace a little bit at paying a wide receiver this much money. Only not because of the wide receiver themselves. You want everybody to get their money, because in sports for so long, guys didn't. So we're kind of making that up now. Guys are getting their money. And that's kind of what you want to see just from a human being standpoint. I think from a team standpoint, when I'm looking here, it's such a position that's dependent on somebody else to throw you the ball. So it's a position that's very dependent on another position. And unless I had somebody back there that I really felt good about, it would give me pause to pay a guy $35 million.
Right.
If I can't, what if my guy can't even get it to him? You know what I mean? Like I got $35 million out there. Man, you better throw the ball every single game, every single possession. Throw JJ the ball. But $35 million for him. I thought the Vikings had to do that. I mean, couldn't let him walk.
Absolutely.
Couldn't let him walk. AJ Brown, 32. He's not better than AJ Brown. I think I'll have him lower than AJ Brown in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, Amon-Ra St. Brown, underrated guy in my opinion.
Love that guy.
Yeah, he deserves money. 30 million is a lot. That's like the going rate right now for a solid one.
That's your
solid one rate is about 30 right now, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. Tyreek 30. We all know what Tyreek's about. Jalen Waddle 28. So like about 50 to 60 into him, just like the Eagles have 50 to 60 into Devontae and AJ combined there. So maybe you're looking at now these wideouts, and you having that wide receiver room with $60 million tied up into two guys.
Yeah.
That's looking like the way to go, I guess. Unless you got a Patrick Mahomes back there. But Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams. Okay, so now once we get into the Nico Collins area here, Brandon Aiyuk, and I'm not just because I did have Nico on my fantasy team as well. Did very well for me.
Did amazing.
So I would have Aiyuk probably up here around this area. This is where Brandon Aiyuk, because from Cooper Kupp up, I don't know. he needs some of those accolades. Some of those guys got maybe Jalen Waddle, maybe. And another thing that Aiyuk has going for him, at least something that his agent can say, is that he has other people on the team, so we really don't know the real ceiling, right? We haven't really seen him get all these attempts that some of these other guys are going to get, because they don't have these other guys don't have a Christian McCaffrey on the team or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Do you think that it's a chance for the 49ers? I just don't let them walk. For the 49ers, I'm not letting them walk. I'm playing hardball. I got to at least get you here for the next year somehow. Maybe I boost. I don't know what I got to do. I want to try to do something. My first thing was try to get him in the room for next year. My next thing would try to work something out long term. Maybe if you get him in the room the next year, you could try to work on something long term, and then just say, hey, it's not working out. If it doesn't work out, you kind of go and see if you can do something somewhere else. But if they don't make a decision here, they got to trade him here soon while they start that year, right? So they could at least trade him to somebody that he's got a year on a contract. He doesn't want to play on that year anyway.
So is it the 5th year option that we're on? Yeah, you're right. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so we're on the 5th year option that we're picking up here, right? So he just want to play on the 5th year option, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so if he was drafted, it's crazy because if he was drafted in the second round, that wouldn't have been the case. He was second round, he would have been ready to go. Ready to make some moves.
Yeah, that's I'm with you. So I'm looking at stats. You're right. I mean, the receptions aren't there because obviously he does play with a lot of other guys, but the yardage is there, right? Over 1,000 yards.
Yeah, absolutely.
Seasons.
Yes.
Yeah, 22.
Yeah, so let's go to that real quick.
Yeah, the yardage is there. I mean,
pull that up.
It's
real
increased
quick.
every year.
Yes.
You know, again, he's not getting a lot of high touchdowns because when they get inside the 5, they're going to run the ball. So, yeah, I don't know what you do. That's an interesting question. You know, I feel like you pay like a guy like that money, you're gonna almost expect to get him the ball, and they're just not that. They're not hey, get this one guy the ball.
You can't get one guy the ball, but it feels like $30 million dictates
$30 million to
get one guy the
ball, right?
You know,
I mean, let's just face it. I know Jalen Waddle is a great receiver, but we all know who the number 1 is in Miami. So I just
what's great about that with some of these teams, and where I would like having these set up here similar in Atlanta, Eugene, is that a lot of these guys, when they do go down as injuries we all know do happen, it's nice to have that Waddle be there, right? It's nice to have that Devontae Smith be there,
right?
If these other guys go down.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, maybe you get him kind of in that, but back on the contracts. I mean, would he be happy kind of being in that Deebo Samuel range, that $23, $24 million range, or does he want to? Deebo's in that 20, like he was in that Cooper or in that. So he was kind of in that range there.
So Deebo's down here at 23. 23 years. His guarantee was 58.
Yeah. So would he be happy kind of being in that range? Does he want to be in that? I like him, but I just don't know if he's in that top range of those other receivers. I think he's a great one. He reminds me of right now, Devontae Smith, right? A great 1B option. But
a one that would be a 1 on another team, like a 1. Like there's a few teams that I could put him on right now that I would say he would be a 1 there if you put him there. And that kind of guy, you know?
Yeah. So no, I love the guy. I love the kid. I mean, I don't know. San Francisco's. I mean, they're probably way over the cap. So I don't know what.
Yeah, and they're paying some guys. Some guys come up. I have some stats here or not some stats. So Aiyuk signed through 24. Deebo Samuel signed through 25. Juwan Jennings, 25. Brock Purdy, the big one, 25. George Kittle, 25. So that's clearly they went all in all these next few years here because
they made their window.
In 25, they're going to be 4 guys.
Yeah.
4 guys in 25, including the Purdy. Well, that number is going to increase dramatically.
Right. Because you're not getting rid of Purdy because he's proved himself. He's taken him to the Super Bowl. And he's won playoff games. So he's
no, bro. They're gonna probably give him anywhere about a $200 million contract.
Right. He's not gonna be the highest paid, but he's gonna be in that respectable range as a as a quarterback. But that's a great question. You never want to let the asset walk, but you don't want the asset to kill your cap as well. So it's a very, if I'm the 49ers, it's a nice spot to be in. If you look at your roster, it's like, oh my, we got all these other pieces, then we can kind of see what we're going to do. But you don't want to mess around too much because, he's talented, he's got speed. You just don't want to let that just walk out of the building.
Very true. Very true. Let's talk about some more football here because I don't know if you've been watching Hard Knocks. Do you ever watch any of the Hard Knocks?
Yeah, I think we were talking before. I watched the first couple of seasons. It was just kind of generic to me. I wasn't really learning anything. But now I've kind of seen the screen grabs from this one. I think I'm going to be a little invested for this one.
It's pretty good. It's a pretty good show. Seeing from, especially if you're like a nerd, a finance nerd who likes to talk about the ins and outs of sports, the background, the front office, the GM, the decisions they got to make. Because it's hard to put together some of the teams that fans, if you're a casual fan, that you may think, why don't they just get this guy? Why don't they get that guy? But if you're a fan and you know how the caps work and contracts work, you know how hard it is to even field a team, more or less a good team.
Right.
So seeing kind of the workings, mechanisms, and how all that stuff kind of works behind the scenes is interesting. One of the things that was very interesting is the whole Saquon Barkley, seeing how that played out, because I think with us and how we see it from how that looks from us, like you guys this is a dumb decision. It's a dumb decision. Like I've watched a few episodes. I still don't know if it's a great decision. I don't think it was. I kind of feel where they're saying for the money is not wanting to give this guy the money, but he is your best player. I think there's one of the things that they're trying to do is go all in on your boy, Daniel Jones. So we were just looking at some contracts here. Let's go look some contracts here. All right. So Daniel Jones, where do we have you at, Daniel? All right. $160 million contract, 81 guaranteed, 40 mil on that annual. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 quarterbacks. And a lot of these quarterbacks that are of the 13 quarterbacks that make better than him have won Super Bowls, have statistics that are way better than his, been to playoff games, had extended playoff runs. I think that one of the things that the show has shown me is that when you're this close to it, and I'm wondering if this is something that's happening, when you're this close to the situation, is emotion affecting your decision making? When I'm hearing how they talk, and this is no knock on these guys, I hate kind of having to break players down like this, because even being in the league is an accomplishment, and they're winning the game of life. No matter how we talk about other aspects of things they have going on, you're still winning the whole game of life. So I don't want to be completely dismissive of somebody's talent, but when I hear how they talk about a player like a Drew Lock, and I'm like, Drew Lock, like, if you've ever played fantasy football, maybe you know something about football, but if it's a guy that you wouldn't even get excited about there, if it's a guy you wouldn't even get excited about in that aspect, like, hey man, I got somebody offered me Drew Lock last night, man. I really gotta think this thing over. Then I feel like that is like where you're so close, because that's how they talk. They talk glowingly, like, oh man, we got Drew. They're high-fiving and stuff, and it's kind of like with some of these players that to us as outside fans, we're like, God, that guy's just completely mediocre, bro. You guys aren't going anywhere with this guy, because you still have to face Jalen Hurts. You still got to face Dak, who's doing pretty good down there in Dallas. You still got to face now the kid Jaden Daniels. We don't know what he's looking like. He might end up being good. You got to have to face him. So speaking of Jaden Daniels, one of the things that came out of this was on the next, I guess, on some episode. I'm not sure when I'll actually put these clips out. So I'm not sure if it'll be before or after the episode actually airs. But on one of the clips, you can hear Brian Daboll wanted to trade for a Heisman quarterback. Jaden Daniels was interested in trading up.
Okay.
But why would you not? Let's go to Daniel Jones stats here, right? Let's go to let's go to the stats. So we'll do last year, which is really disrespectful, and then we'll do the years before.
Yeah.
So we'll go last year. 909, 42nd.
Was injured.
Sure how he's 42nd. And he was injured. This is an injured year for sure. Absolutely. Right. Injured year. 2 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. No matter how much the injuries are, that sucks. 36.3 on the QBR. And this is one of the reasons I brought this year up, because I would not have brought this up before because of the injury. But a 2-to-6 ratio is horrible no matter if it's 1 game, 2 games, 3 games. That's a horrible touchdown to interception ratio. Now let's go to our quick Google search here with Daniel Jones stats. And as we look at his stats, let's go career. 12,512 yards. Highest career yardage was 3,200. In that year that he had the 3,200, he had 15 touchdowns and 5 interceptions that year. Okay. They paid him after that, by the way. That was 2020. Right. He got paid after that. 3,200 yards, 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. 92.5 rate on the rating, not horrible. And a 67% on the completion, not terrible either. I'll take that.
Right.
2021, 2,400 yards, 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 11 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 2020 on 43 yards, and 3,000 yards, 2019, 24 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. So in totality, 62 touchdowns, 40 interceptions on an 85 QB rating. And that's just not doing it for where you're ranked with how you get paid, right?
No.
That's not doing it. That's what's killing you. So why would he not want to trade the guy? Why we not at least not trade him? But he's not saying that the kid would even start it next year. They still have Daniel Jones for this year. Why would you not want to explore the quarterback position? See if there's something that's in the draft that interests you or somebody that will fall to you that you can put behind Daniel Jones. And plus he's injured anyway, right? I don't see the point of him getting all like upset about it. What are your thoughts on it?
Right.
Or and he hasn't said he got upset. My bad. He hasn't said he got upset either. I'm just saying, like, I don't see why it would be upsetting to anybody.
No.
It's kind of obvious that you would look for ways to keep your job should something happen. You know?
Right. And that career year he had was because Saquon was on the team. Right.
Correct.
Saquon was
and when Saquon had a very healthy year, we pointed that out several times, I think, on this show.
Right.
Healthy year for Saquon.
Healthy year. I mean, even I know the yardage, what you didn't show in the stats was he did have a great rushing season that year, the year he got the contract.
He rushes pretty good. He's a pretty good rushing quarterback.
Yeah. Right? It's just, but like you said, I mean, let's just face it. The Giants were like the least, they weren't openly flirting with everybody. They were flirting with everybody. It was like the least, it was a well-known thing that they were trying to trade up. So it wasn't like a surprise. The Giants were in like every conversation about trading up. Them and I think Denver, like we just kept hearing about them trade up. So not surprising. And again, you and I have watched enough football and sports overall. I mean, we pretty much know what a guy is by kind of the second or third year. They don't really change, right? I mean, again, he had this
he'd be going into his 6th year,
right?
And he had occurred with the one injury, but still, that's only one of the years that he had injury. We still would have a 4 to 5 year sample size on this guy.
So we've seen the sample size. Now, sometimes we get fooled by guys. Like he fooled us. He had that great season and he got the contract, and
it wasn't even a great season. I thought it was a mediocre season.
Mediocre.
Like when I saw
that Saquon masked a lot of it.
I thought so. Like myself, man. Let's go back to that real quick. Let's go back. That was a 22 season, right? So he had 3,200 yards, 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Let's go to his Pro Football Reference. Okay, so yards. Okay. So their record that year was 9-6-1. That was a 1 winning record they had. They had 9-6-1 records. That was a 1 winning record they had that year, right? I don't know, man. Me personally, man, I don't think this guy's it. I'm gonna just keep it above. I don't think he's it.
I agree.
I don't think he's it. Because you're up against you're up against these kids are coming out. They're better than you coming out, at least on paper. We'll see if that translates at all. But 15 touchdowns is just not going to do it. And 15 touchdowns, having the 15 touchdowns be kind of like your best, like, you know what I mean? That's like the pinnacle, and you get paid off that is weird. and when you're watching shows like Hard Knocks, then you kind of get a feel for that. When you're watching shows, you watch them behind the scenes. These guys, Eugene, they fall in love with some of these players, and maybe because they're so attached to them, because they're decisions that they have made, so they also want to validate those decisions. So they're kind of hard to move off of a guy. But I think if you're Daboll and you're looking at the whole situation realistically, you're saying to yourself, I might not be around here for a rebuild, man. I want the best kid in here who could sling it, man. And then I saw this kid, Jayden Daniels, slinging it at LSU. And I would like to just see if we can get a shot at him. I'm not all the way shocked they didn't take a quarterback, because Neighbors is a great player.
Yeah.
But where you're picking at, I think top 10 these days, for the money you're going to have to pay the kid, it probably needs to be a quarterback if you have any remote questions at that position, in my opinion. And if that position is solid, never mind. But if there's even a scintilla of a question, you got a guy on a 1-year contract, the guy's not performing, or anything like that comes up, you're within a year to 2, take that shot on that QB, man. So I think that, I don't know if Neighbors is going to change fortunes for them. I think he's a great player. It'd be interesting to see. But since you lost Saquon to get Neighbors, I don't think that's going to be a great result for them. We'll see how Burns turns out, because Burns is a great pickup for sure.
Yeah.
And
and to be fair, he's never had a number 1 receiver. I mean, he's legit
very
never had
true.
A good
absolutely, absolutely true.
But to your point, does that change anything? And like, I still I'm right in your camp. I'm in your camp. I'm 75% sure it's not going to change.
You've just moved me over to your camp a little bit, because you did. And then we kind of with camps, I guess, kind of meet in the middle there, because it's true, he doesn't have, and I am very, in this day and age, in this NFL, you got to have one.
You got to at least have one.
To. Like, you can't evaluate a quarterback fairly without a number 1 receiver. You can't, man, because then defense doesn't have to really key on anybody in specifics. They can just kind of sit back. And if you got guys up front, making it hard on the QB. So, and even from a tight end standpoint, right? He didn't even have, like, Patrick Mahomes at least has Kelsey.
He has Kelsey. That's Tiger Hill for a little bit.
Daniel Jones didn't even have that.
No.
He had no. Waller was a shell of himself, man.
Yeah, Waller's wanting to do music. So he seemed like he didn't want to play football, so he's retiring. So there you go. And
so maybe then we do get a shot to see. Maybe Daniel Jones comes out next year. They get a chance with the kid Neighbor, legit. At least we think he's going to be legit. We can see how it translates. And see, now you got a guy out here who can rip it and catch it. So we'll get a chance to really see. And they only, I think, have 1 more year left on him anyway.
Yeah, this is kind of like everyone like gripes about the contract, but if you look, like you said, never look at the overall number, right? Look at the guarantees and look at when you can get out of the contract. Most of these contracts, you're stuck with a guy 2 or 3 years. And that's what I know. Everyone griped about the money. Yes. But you know what? You're kind of forced to pay him. He did have the good season, and there just wasn't a lot of other options out there when he got his money. He hit free agency at the right time.
Do you think that they should have given that money to Saquon? I thought that, my personal opinion, was give the money to Saquon. Or at least maintain your best player, because I don't think that Daniel Jones would have got the 40 from some other teams. I think he would have interest from some other teams, right?
Right.
I think he would have got interest, and then the Giants could have put themselves in a position to match whatever situation, right? They could have just said, hey, go out there and see. Even if a team says, hey, we'll give them 32, at least that saves you something.
Right.
It saves you something, especially with a guy that's not playing anyway, due to injuries. Save you some money here. But here we are. We'll get a chance, I guess, to see if Neighbors kind of moves the needle for them. I don't see why they would, though, because I can't imagine what kind of season would Daniel Jones have to have for them to pay him $40 million again. And that's kind of where I'm getting. I'm thinking like no matter what season he has, it's going to be a demotion in money wise. Maybe more, you get more longevity money, but you're at per annum of 40 per annum when you haven't really, that doesn't make sense. I don't know if another team would have paid you that before, and I don't think another team would pay you that now, post injury. Right. So how good does he have to perform, Eugene? To move playoffs, maybe right? Change the narrative.
Yeah, at least playoffs. He's just got to get the playoffs. I mean, just
what does that look like for him statistically? How many yards and touchdowns, interceptions, stuff for him?
I think if you said, if he could kind of match the yardage, maybe get some more of that 4,000.
Yeah,
maybe get to that 25 touchdown.
Man.
We have 4. Get to 25 touchdowns because again, if he has to have Saquon, then the rushing yards.
4, 25, and 10, but maybe another 4 rushing, 4 to 5 rushing.
Yeah, I could take that because the rushing yard is going to go down, right? So we need so you're gonna have to throw the ball more. So you would hope those numbers would.
Let me think. Man, even then, if I'm another team, I got to see it more than once. Like you're in prove it mode, bro. Like, and that prove it mode is going to be more than one season. And unfortunately, I think he's only got 1 on this contract, so a team would have to kind of make a decision if they were. I got to look at the particular contract to see if they could just. Is it a team option after that, or is he outright free agent?
It's like you got to buy him out. I think the cap hit is less. I think it's less last time I looked for if it after this year. It was like a 2 or 3 year commitment. I think after this year, and this, by the way, if and this is kind of another good quarterback season year, right? So you're gonna have some pretty good quarterbacks come out. So again, do you want to be kind of floating around when you're at 4 and 6? Do you want to go for that playoffs, or do you want to kind of like let's just circle the wagons right now and just
time to tank?
Down to tank, right? So I wonder that's where they're
so that's about 10 games at a 10 game sample size there for Danny.
Yeah, right. Wouldn't you be like if you're 4 and 6, 3 and 7, 3 and 7 right there? You're like, okay, if you're 3 and 7 after 10,
3 and 7, it's over with.
You're over with. But then if you're opposite, then you're like, oh my gosh, now I think we gotta stick with this guy.
What problem, Eugene, would you rather have? Would you rather have the problem of him actually being good for 1 year and now you being forced to pay the guy again? Or do you want the problem of the guy that's being mid? You get him out of there, you shake hands, thank you for doing business, and you move on to somewhere else. Where do you hope?
I don't know, because then you're like, if he does it again, then you're like at that stage where he's fooled me twice, and then you're like, wait a minute, he did this 2 years ago, he's doing it again. Do we trust it or do we move on? I feel like we've seen enough sample size at this point, man. I think I would just move on. I think he's a legit backup. He's a decent backup, right? I think that's not to knock anything. It's NFL days, you need good backups. So I just think that's where his I think he's just he's a backup that got a starting job. I've always kind of felt that about him. He's got that pro that
he ain't got a contract too, man. Shout out,
and he got a contract,
agent, man. He got a contract. I mean, I think he owes Saquon a little bit of that money, but he
does owe Saquon. He should definitely give Saquon
shoot him something.
His life, yeah,
right.
Send him some kind of money.
Christmas list, man. Absolutely, man. For the rest of his life. So, final word on this Daniel Jones situation to you, my friend.
No, I'm with you. I think we are kind of aligned. We've seen the sample size. And I just think if you're a Giants GM, I know the coach and GM.
They kind of believe in him, man. You watch the show, man. They do.
You kind of have to believe
to a certain degree. I think you have to too. Yes, for sure.
Yeah, because you don't want to lose your job. You invested all this money, you invested all this time. You kind of got to ride him out at this point because you didn't get what you wanted in the draft. You're like, well, I guess I'm stuck with this guy now. So you got to kind of, you're like at the, around the horse in the middle of the river and like, oh, do I turn back or do I just keep trucking along? I hope I don't drown in the river. I guess that's what the Giants got at this point. Just truck along in the river and say, hope you don't drown.
This is Just the Stats. Check us out. Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast, as well as YouTube, TikTok, and other social media sites. See you next time. All right, man. All right.